This you remember now. We've done this several times. This is a tool point frequency response function, or FRF. Yeah? This is for a multi-degree of freedom system. This is a measured FRF of a machine that you can see. We did these measurements. Each peak here corresponds to a natural frequency of the structure. Yeah? Each peak here also has a corresponding shape of vibration, and the amplitude typically tells you how flexible the machine is at that frequency. Mr. Mohan Ram mentioned this idea of dynamic stiffness. We've been talking about it for several days. Yes. So dynamic stiffness is essentially, if you look at units of this. Yeah? So this is an FRF, x upon f, which is meters per Newton. So stiffness will be inverse of that. Yeah? F equal to kx. What we want to do in understanding machines or designing them, or even before you buy them if you can, is go check for its dynamic stiffness. This will tell you how the machine will behave. Yeah? For some reason we don't. For some reason even the machine tool builders don't give us this information, because even they don't have it. Yeah? They don't know how to measure this. But we can help you. Evaluate your own machines to make perhaps better machines. So what we are interested in is dynamic stiffness, and understanding which is the dynamic stiffness of the most flexible mode in the machine. Because this is, we've done this before, but before I go there, static stiffness is nothing but zero frequency, intercept over there. But, and you can see static stiffness is so much stiffer than the dynamic stiffness. So if you design a machine for static stiffness, you don't even know what is happening in this regime. Yeah? So you're actually working in the dark. Yeah? So if you're doing this, throw out these ideas, it's time to move to this. Yeah? And why it's time to move to this is because how flexible this is directly proportional to, if you remember our stability lobe diagrams, yeah? We've been looking at it differently. The absolute lowest limit we've been talking about 2 zeta, 1 plus zeta. Yeah? But we can also represent it using dynamic stiffness. You'll get the same formulation. Yeah? So this is the limiting depth of cut. If you remember from our stability lobe diagrams, this is speed. Yeah? This is depth of cut. Yeah? This limit is a limit. Yeah? What you like to do as a designer, tool, machine, doesn't matter, is push this limit higher. So you have a bigger range of stability. Everything below this stable. Yeah? You remember, everything above this is unstable. And this is directly a function of your dynamic stiffness. If you can evaluate this, you can measure it, you can design it, you can also understand how productive your machine is going to be, or for that matter your tool. Okay, so we're going to try and use this information for designing tools and machines. Yeah? So this is what this talk is about. The math we've already gone through. We'll talk about ideas now. Yeah? Okay, before that, yeah, I already mentioned this. Yeah? This is inversely proportional. Productivity, you know, is a function now of your depth of cut. Your material removal rate is a function of your depth of cut. So if you improve depth of cut by design modification, you push this higher, you also make a more productive machine or a more productive tool. This is the machine tool user or builder viewpoint, machine or tool. This we did yesterday in the lab. Yeah? If I am a user, if somebody gives me these charts, yeah, I can select points which will give me unstable cutting if I am in the chatter region. Instead of becoming conservative and reducing depth of cut or spindle speed, I can move into a stability pocket. And we did this calculation yesterday by just changing spindle speed from going from unstable to stable. We were able to improve productivity by what, 30%? Yeah? Conservatively, because our machine is not capable to go into the high speed pocket. But if you have a machine, you can go there. This is a user, this is builder. Our focus here today is going to be this. This we've already done. Yeah? Okay. Alright. So this is an outline. Yeah? I'll talk about both from the machine tool viewpoint as well as from the cutting tool viewpoint. We'll talk about it in the machine tool viewpoint. I think you already spoke about this a little, using finite element method, topology optimization. We'll talk about new structural materials, which Mr. Mohan Ram has already touched upon. Design for symmetry. This is my pet, not project, but this is something I'm very interested in. I'll show you why. Yeah? New machine tool concepts. Yeah? How you can have different kinematic configurations which will give you better structural rigidity. And active damping devices, which Dr. Ganguly spoke about in the morning, how you can use that and put it inside machine, again to push that limit up. Our objective is to build a better machine, more productive, more stable. Okay, that is from the machine tool viewpoint. We can also use the same ideas that we've been talking about from a cutting tool viewpoint. And Mr. Mohan Ram mentioned something about variable pitch. And we'll show you results as to how you can see what you do with variable pitch, how it changes stability. Very simple, very elegant idea. We'll talk about something called serrated cutters and why they're so interesting. Tool tuning, this is a very interesting concept. Just by changing the tool, you can change dynamics, you can move stability boundaries around. And sometimes a longer tool is better, which is very counterintuitive again. How tool holder changes your dynamics. Yeah? Very important. Again, you might not think. We'll show you things which are counterintuitive. Passive damping, you already spoke about this. Yes, I also had the same. So I see this is very same thought process. Process damping, Dr. Jin spoke about this yesterday. How you can design tools to have better process damping. Okay, this is an overview. We'll start with topology optimization. This is a very Mickey Mouse example. Yeah? Okay, so this is a column of a machine. Typically, they're hollow box construction because the earlier machines has to have a dead weight moving inside, in and out of them. Even today, they're made hollow box and you add ribs outside, so lightweight. Okay, so what you see is the FRF of this machine, of a machine with this column at the tool point. Okay, there's the entire machine, but we're only looking at how change in design of column influences tool point FRF at the tool tip. So there's the machine, there's the head, there's the spindle, there's the tool, everything is there. So the red is the original machine, tool point FRF. You can see it is flexible in two modes. And this is what is limiting productivity. We discussed yesterday where sometimes only high frequency modes limit cutting. But if you're cutting steel, low speed cutting with a big face mill, the face mill is very stiff. What is going to be flexible is your machine. For example, if I go back here, this is for an end mill. You can see this here, small end mill. If you put a big face mill cutter, this will become small amplitude, very stiff. Suddenly this is flexible. This is what will limit your cutting performance. And this belongs to structure, low frequency. Omega is square root of k by m. M is high, omega is low. So low frequency belongs to structure, column, base. That is why sometimes even that is important. Okay, so what we did is we just looked at a simple original column. We added ribs inside also. Adding ribs increases material, but it adds stiffening because the limiting. So this is modal stiffness. We introduced concepts of modal stiffness. This is damping. If you want to change damping, you can change material like Mr. Mohan Ram mentioned. But if you want to change stiffness, stiffness is the function of geometry. Also material, but also geometry. You can keep same material. If you change geometry, you can change stiffness. So if you add stiffened ribs inside, you can see what happens. The brown dashed line is stiffened. And now because you actually by stiffening you added weight, if this is the moving column configuration, you can do a topology optimization, which is the shape optimization with a certain objective. And the objective is that we want a certain dynamic stiffness and you want to minimize weight. So this is a very Mickey Mouse example. You can see just by a simple topology optimization of one element, one component in the machine, you can get a 40%. So this is, the lower this is, the higher the productivity is. A 40% improvement in productivity of the machine. One element in the machine. Let's take this idea and apply it to the entire machine. Sorry. Go ahead.
First peak, the topology optimized one has actually reduced the dynamic stiffness from the first one.
Yes. This is the water bed effect we were talking about. Sometimes you suppress, if you imagine a water bed, a bed made of water. If you sit on one side, the other side goes up. So this is something very similar. It happens a lot in control. We also see it in structure.
No, actually because that has gone down,
Yes.
this is the one which will start limiting the range.
Yeah, but it's still stiffer than the original. Yeah, that is, yeah. So stiffer than the original. Of course, whatever you do is going to change things. Our objective is to show you that you can make things better. This is elemental level.
The stiffened one probably is better.
It can be in this case. Even the stiffened one is about 30% better. So you can perhaps just use the stiffened one. It adds material. If you're okay with that, if you want a bigger moving motor, if that is okay, then you go ahead. Alright, this is element component level. Let's take the same idea applied to an entire machine tool. So this is work from ITRI, Industrial Training Research Institute in Taiwan. So some of the codes that we developed, we shared with them. They took these ideas. There's a lot of analysis, math in the background which you're skipping, giving you a big picture now. So this is an original 5-axis machine that they conceived. Okay, this is a very standard structure, the way these machines are made. So the way we want to do topology optimization with the objective of improving dynamic stiffness, minimizing weight for the entire machine. So each component we took, we created its raw block geometry. We defined constraints, minimize weight, maximize stiffness, and came up with something like this, which you cannot manufacture yet. In some time when we can print nice complex 3D structures, perhaps we might be able to also manufacture this, but it's not there yet. So you redesign, you put more constraints in your topology optimization, and you come up with a structure like this. Okay, using this information. So this goes into an input into your initial design now. You do this for each element of the machine. So if you look at section for this, this view is very similar to this. Okay, and there is a hollow box construction inside. That's what we've done. There is patterning. You can see this rib at the bottom. This goes all the way through. So there is actually boxes inside. But how do you know that this configuration is better than that configuration? If I ask you to design a machine, you'll start with this, most likely. Okay, you will say that let's keep the taper at the because you think load carrying is better when it is tapering. But you might not come up with this unless you go through a systematic investigation here. This is one component. You do this for each component in the machine. Okay, that's what they did. So using codes that we have shared with them. And here it is showing you dynamic stiffness or rigidity in the X, Y, Z as well as total mass.
Like what codes, what are the constraints that are?
Okay, so let's go back. Our constraint is maximize dynamic stiffness, minimize mass, and use stability as a metric. Okay, these lobes that we do, all this is in the background. We calculate this. We want to know what productivity. So this machine was designed for cutting titanium. Titanium cutting, you can't cut more than 2 millimeter. You start chattering. Structure will chatter. Yes. So we've used all this information. Of course. Okay. So you get what is happening. There's things happening in the background. We can talk about how and why. Now big picture. Otherwise we'll get stuck in math again. Okay. So we do that for each component. And you come up with this new optimized design. You can see each component here is very different than what you started off with. You do this at sub-component level, you do it at assembled level. And this doesn't take too much time, you'll be surprised. You can do this in a few days. Typically, topology optimization codes run for days together. To build FE codes takes days together. But there's a lot of reduced order modeling in the background, a lot of substructuring in the background. Which we've done, and we've been able to bring down and design and analysis time to a few days for machines like this. And our objective is here. You can see original design is grey, new design is blue. This is rigidity or dynamic stiffness in a way in X, Y and Z. From 100 to 229 Newton per micron. So you've almost 120%. Similarly in the Y, similarly in the Z. And we brought down the mass by almost 1.2 tons. Idea is these things work. This is only simulation. They built it. Okay. These chaps are believers. So this is a cast structure, you can see. And now this is getting into serial production with one of the companies that they're working with. This is going to become a regular product. So this is how people are building machines. They're using ideas, they appreciate them. And they did it in partnership with my lab in Canada, so there was some understanding between both of us. Because to do this on your own is difficult, but we know how, so you can talk to us. Okay, this is machine. You spoke a little about using FRP or composite materials. You spoke about using it in the structure or in the spindle. It can also be in moving members. Yeah? This is a project that the Fraunhofer did with TU Chemnitz, which is both in Germany. This is a typical moving column for a horizontal machining center. You can make this lighter. You make it lighter, not only reduce the mass, but you can also increase stiffness. This is static in this case, in X and Y. You lose, of course, in some direction because of how you lay fiber and lay the matrix. But you can see that it's possible to use even these composites. They also built this. This is just a simulation-based investigation, but they built this. This went on to a moving column machine.
Complete thing is carbon fiber.
Sandwiched. Sandwiched. This is sandwiched between plates, steel plates. Steel plates. Okay, not complete. Complete thing is not. This is sandwiched. People have also made complete things, but this one was sandwiched. Concrete. You spoke about this. Yeah? This is not polymer concrete. This is just concrete with some polymer additions. This was very difficult to cast. This weighs. Oh, it's beautiful though. This is at the Fraunhofer right now. This was in Germany. So I did a lot of tests on this. Yeah. This is just a representative example to show you. This was being set up when I left. This is very difficult to cast. Yeah. Lovely smooth surface finish. You can't make roads like this, yeah, or buildings like this, but you can make bases like this now. This weighs, I think, 14 to 15 tons. Yeah. But there are companies in Germany, Niles, for example, Niles Simon, they make very precision pin milling machines. So you have these crankshafts, and crankshafts has these eccentric things, and they have these pins which sit inside a journal bearing. Machining that is very, very difficult, and you need a very, very rigid machine because you machine it from a forging. You remove several millimeters of material in one depth of cut. That base is, and crankshafts for ship engines. That ship engine is about, you and I and all, maybe 4 of us can stand tall in it, it's that big. So imagine how big that crankshaft is. To machine a crankshaft, so you see, to machine a small bar in the lathe, how big the machine is. Similarly, to machine that big a crankshaft, that lathe, just the base, weighs about 40 tons and it's cast concrete. So these things are happening. That was one side, this is another side. Concrete, better damping. All right, this is something I'm very interested in. Design for symmetry, there should be a question mark there. Yeah? So we measured FRF, frequency response function, in X and Y direction. You saw it is not the same. It is not the same because structure is not symmetric in the X and Y direction. What you would like ideally is to make a symmetric structure where it has uniform properties all over, in the X and the Y. So it's very easy to design and analyze, and okay, fine, this is limiting or that is limiting. This is a similar idea. Yeah? If the structure properties are non-uniform, in different directions, what happens is you get some kind of a stability envelope of machines. This is the stability envelope of the entire work volume of a machine. Okay, we're going, 0 is positive X, 180 is negative X. This is Y, this is negative Y. So in one plane, and as you move the slide up, you can evaluate what the stability or productivity of the machine will be all over its work volume at the design stage. So we did that, and what you can see, you've seen this, right? This is stability is depth of cut is here, speed is here. This is speed independent. We're only looking at the limiting depth of cut. Okay, at all orientations, positive X, 30, 60, 90, whatever. As it moves around, you don't only cut in the X and Y, you also cut at 10 degrees, 20 degrees orientation. Radially outwards is depth of cut, so 0.5 to 1 to 2 to 3 millimeters. Anything inside that is stable, outside is unstable. Similar idea, upper stable, unstable, niche stable. What we would like as machine tool developers is, or users, is, for example, if I'm cutting a very large workpiece, if I start cutting here, by the time I go somewhere else, large work volumes, large work pieces, dynamics change, stability changes. and it changes dynamically. What is stable here will become unstable. You will start chattering when you were not chattering earlier. So what do? You would like that it's uniform cutting conditions everywhere in the workpiece if you can. Very difficult to do, but possible. Yeah? What we would like is a cylinder everywhere, and you can do that through structural modification. So the question is symmetric design good? And I don't think so. We're working on a project. I'm going to put one of my master students on this. Yeah?
Plus 6, minus 6, and
60.
different positions.
What? This is in one plane.
Different positions.
This is z-axis. Yeah?
No. Because for positive x,
Hmm.
the stability envelope is lower compared to negative x.
Yes.
So
It's not symmetric across the xy plane. It's symmetric across some 130-degree angle.
why is that?
Yeah. No, not only that, because it depends on modal projections. Yeah? How the dynamics are in the x and the y. So
Because plus y and minus y are the same. Must be the same.
actually not. You can't really see it behind, but it's symmetric across this plane. Yeah? Here, it's not symmetric like this. Yeah? This is just an idea. We can talk detail. Yeah? But the idea is you want to use information like this to design a better machine, to make a cylinder if possible. Very difficult.
X, y, z.
Hmm.
Where is the tool? Where is the workpiece? Where is the?
So this is
Z
for,
will represent the depth of cut.
no. Radially outwards is depth of cut.
Huh?
Radially outwards, each circle here represents one depth of cut. 0.5 millimeter, 1 millimeter, 1.5 and 2. Okay, so if you are at Z0 or Z minus 0.5 from the median position, if you come down or you go up, so as you go up, stability keeps changing, it reduces. Or actually it increases, yeah? Because this is a cantilever type arrangement.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah? When you come down, it's more flexible. And the envelope starts growing. Yeah? So what you would like is this big envelope in a cylinder everywhere. Yeah?
This is still not tool dependent or anything.
Oh, this is for a tool and a workpiece.
Same stuff?
Yes,
3D plane.
yes, always. This is always for a tool and workpiece. We've taken a face mill, assumed heavy duty cutting of steel, which is typically the worst situation in the machine, and just try and analyze the machine for that. Okay, this was some of my PhD work actually.
You want the as the depth increases also, stability envelope remains the same. So in some sense, you are trying to say that the dynamic stiffness of the tool should
The same.
be the same, independent of the length of the cantilever.
Yes, and you can, no? And it is not a function of only the. I think it's also a function of direction dependency. You can see, we don't mind it being small, yeah, as long as it's uniform everywhere. The problem is it's not uniform across the plane. It makes cutting very difficult. Anyway, so this is one idea. Yeah? Very interesting, very difficult, but we can work on it. This is an example of a very interesting machine. Yeah? Hybrid serial parallel kinematics. So this map that you saw, yeah, is actually for this machine. Okay. Now we know that. Well, actually, I don't know. I know, but perhaps, hopefully, you also know. So if I draw two springs in series, yeah, okay, and I want to get K1 and K2, I want to get K equivalent, yeah. Does anybody remember what this is? Not Pankaj Bahi. And I have two springs like this, yeah, and I want K equivalent. Which one is stiffer? Huh? So, and you can look at the math I will go into later, but springs in parallel are always stiffer than springs in series. You were giving an example of how this hexaboard, or they had some struts, no, pyramid structure.
They had a absolutely static structure.
Yeah, the pyramid, yeah.
Pyramid.
Yeah, but because pyramids are actually springs in parallel. It's 4 springs or 4 or more, yeah? Yeah, so the idea is springs in parallel are stiffer than springs in series. But all our machines are serial construction, they're springs. Why don't we make, yeah, so the question is why not do something with parallel? People have tried. So this is an example of a combination of a serial plus parallel combination. They bought one. They bought it from Hexacon. That was bought by from Hexacon, not made. Yeah? Even BFW bought one. So this is serial. Yeah? I'll show you a video, and then on that there is. So this is serial motion. Yeah? Linear motors, and this is a scissor kinematic parallel arrangement. Spindle is here, moving in and out. Yeah? So this is like a serial. On top of that, you have parallel. I'll play the video again. Yeah. This is not Stewart platform. This is scissor kinematic. It's like you have those forklifts, no, which open up. It's like scissors. So this is like a scissor. Yeah? The spindle is in the middle. This is that spindle moving up and down. Yeah? Now this has got combination kinematics, serial plus hybrid. Yeah? How do you analyze such machines? Are they really better?
Where is that controls for these?
You build them. Horribly difficult to do because it's got redundancy. You saw this axis is moving as well as this axis is moving. How do you split motion? You say x 10 millimeter, but which drive to move?
All the axes.
Yeah?
You don't know all the axes.
As in, no, you can split motion. It's very difficult, but it's possible. But anyway, we are looking at dynamics. Yeah? Controlling it is after. It's possible. This is built. This is what is built. Okay. So it's not only simulation, but you also build it, and we tested this extensively. In fact, this is that map after testing. We cut with this. We did a lot of interesting things. Okay. So this is how this looks when you build it. It's a huge work volume. Yeah, there are people standing in relation to the machine, so you can see. Those are people there. Yeah? It takes up half their shop floor. And we did extensive dynamic testing on this machine. This is an experimental modal analysis to also get shapes. So each of these points is, we put an acceleration sensor, we put a shaker, we excited shaker you saw yesterday, and we measured mode shapes. So measured how this behaves, matched it with our models, all validated, to try and develop a better serial hybrid kinematic arrangement, and that's what we did. They spent a lot of money, but very interesting machine, lot of learning. You spoke about metal for sponges, right? This column, so both these columns are aluminium foam. As aluminium foam, sandwich inside steel plates. So what they take, you take foam, steel plates, you take molten aluminium, you pour it inside and you blow air, hot air. It creates foam. Lightweight, terribly flexible, dynamic stiffness you struggle with, but it's such a huge moving mass. Yeah? If you make this with steel plates, you will end up with such oversized motors that you will have other issues. So that is why, because you are compromising on stiffness here, if you have springs in parallel here, you still have a higher tool point rigidity. So this is for a reason. Yeah? Okay, this is something you already spoke about. This is a machine from Spain. Yeah? Ideco is the group. This is the Danobat Solaris machine. I have a video, I can show that to you later. This is the RAM which comes in and out. So in this plane, in the plane of the board, there is a small black box below that spindle. This is the spindle. Yeah? So below the spindle there is a small black box, which is this. This is an active damping device in plane, biaxial, XY. Yeah? So not only one direction but two directions. And this is how it works. Yeah? You turn on the actuator, it damps, no chatter. You turn it off, chatter. You can look at what is happening here also. Yeah? So it works online, real-time suppression, identification, suppression, detection. This is this biaxial. You can also try and integrate this inside the RAM if you have space. Go ahead.
One question, what is the probably for both of you guys? What is the time delay between my sensing actuation and the real actuation?
There is always, yeah, there is a sensor. Oh, because typically your control loop is order of 3 or 4 milliseconds, microseconds.
Yeah, so your
It
depends on
depends
the
on
sampling
what kind of sensors
frequency of your
computers are using.
Yeah, no, but your clock time for machines,
clock time for the
for machines is 3
milliseconds.
3 milliseconds. 3 milliseconds, 3 to 4 milliseconds is your clock time. Every block of code runs in that.
Something wrong, and then I try to solve that issue and actuate, send a signal to the actuator saying do this, do that.
Yes.
And by the time it reacts, that time is about 3 to 4 milliseconds before this.
Yeah.
Yes,
It could be more.
it could be more.
Because what we are saying is just for the computer, but the sensor itself has a time constant.
Actuation.
Yes,
There will be a delay in the sensing.
there is.
Then actuator also will have a certain time constant.
No,
In fact, the actuation delay is the largest problem. Is the maximum.
That depends on the natural frequency of the system, it is in hertz maybe. But your electronic system is working in kilohertz or maybe megahertz.
Yeah, so the electronic system, that all the final, the actuator
it
time delay
works.
is the
We'll
largest.
show you.
There is a focus.
Hmm? Okay, this is just some sample results here. Some of them are ours, some are somebody else's, but to show you that all this is possible, it is being done, and everything under this, beneath all this is stability. They're all using that as a metric or vibration damping. This is at the machine side. I think I will now come to the tool side. Another 15 minutes, yeah? 4 o'clock we're going to conclude. No math, no? So we're keeping it nice pictures, yeah? Variable pitch you spoke about. We've seen stability lobes already. Black is uniform pitch. 4 teeth cutter, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90, 90. Yeah? If you change the pitch, alternating 70, 110, 70, 110, or if you make it alternating 60, 120, 60, 120 is green. You can see that boundaries shift. Sometimes stable region becomes unstable. So it was stable here, now it has become unstable. But sometimes you get more stability. Okay.
I thought ALM was supposed to be a straight line.
No, we've changed things in the system. Okay. This is a very complicated model now. It pushes it left, right as well as up, down, yeah? Depending on how you are changing. Okay. The delay, Dr. Vahi can explain better. Yeah? This is a complicated delay mechanism here.
Yeah, and the toolpath frequency also.
Huh.
So it becomes a delay differential equation with two different delays,
Yes.
and both of them, and on top of that there is a time periodic coefficient,
Hmm.
and because of this there are two different forcing functions.
I know.
So it's
But are they understanding? Okay. No, ALM moves left, right, up, down. Our point is just this. Yeah? Just by small modification in the cutter, you can get better pockets where you had none earlier. Yeah? So, and you can change where you can use your cutter. Yeah? This is for alternating pitch. This is what most people use. This is, and they use not even 70, 110. This is very aggressive. They use 88, 92. They think that is sufficient. They're lost. I don't know in which world. You can do this. People have built these. These are experimentally validated. But you can do something more interesting. Now you will have 4 delays.
all four different. Yeah.
All 4 are different. Yeah. Okay, now modeling this is very interesting. But this is even better than that. You can see the boundary is much higher for both. So instead of having this alternate pitch, why don't you increase it linearly? I don't know why people don't do it. Yeah. But this is something to think about. These are all results which are experimentally validated. These are simulated, but this is one snapshot from them. There is experiments later. This is published literature, not my work, other people's work, all available. This is just to show you that you can use this information to design a better cutter. And you can simulate this. And this takes what? We have this in our CutPro software. It takes, you saw how long it takes to simulate stability curves. Yeah? 10 seconds. This is another 10 seconds. Yeah? And then you go cut. How difficult it is to make a cutting tool and cut with it and see whether it works. Another 2 hours. Yeah? In 5 hours you built cutter, you validated it and you're done. For some reason they don't do it. Anyway, you can do variable pitch, you can do variable helix. So this is, so both are variable helix actually. 3540, 3530, 4 different flutes, and this is different pitch. You can see that stability boundaries are different for both. So this combination works better at this speed. Yeah, it goes to about 10-12 millimeter depth of cut. This is the stability pocket. At the low speed it is quite similar actually, but just by changing helix you can also change stability. Okay,
What is the depth of cut that is being used?
in millimeter. And
So that is the actual immersion, no?
this one, yes, this is all milling.
Milling,
Huh.
with that variable helix,
Yes.
which the entire portion of, what portion of the helix is actually coming in contact?
So depending on the depth of cut. Yeah?
No, sir is asking the radial length.
Okay, I don't know. We'll have to look at the paper. Yeah? I don't know. I don't know. This is slotting. Do you remember? I don't know. We can look it up. This is published. We can look it up. Okay. Idea is you can change just geometry or parameters in your cutter. So we showed you what pitch does. We showed you what helix does. Do both. Variable helix and variable pitch. Okay. This is standard pitch, standard helix. Variable pitch, variable helix. Yeah? You see what's happened to your stability boundary. This is what? Here it is about 1.4, 1.3. Here the minimum boundary is about 2 millimeters, 1.8. Yeah? The nature of the lobes is very different. Yeah? But you have a much bigger pocket here. You have a bigger pocket here, which you did not have earlier. Yeah? Idea is just use these 2-3 parameters to see how cutters work. If you don't believe the simulations, bake the cutter. Machining an end mill takes how long? Have you ever seen it? Our cutting tool people, have you ever seen how end mills are made? How long does it take? On the machine, 5 hours of machine make a tool. Build it, cut it, and no, what for them it costs 4,000. It costs 10,000 rupees, man. You can't invest 10,000 rupees in making a better cutter. You don't deserve to do this work then.
Just one of them will not work. No, you have to do several.
Oh, but come on, you're building and you're selling in hundreds and thousands of these cutters. Anyway, the idea is use these metrics. They're available. Yeah? This is all available. This is not new. This has been published, I think, over a decade ago. Serrated cutters are very interesting. Yeah. So serrated cutters, you might have seen, they have this profile. Yeah? Okay, and it's very highly interrupted. Yeah? So there's something like having different inserts all along, but each insert has serrations on it. Yeah? So this is a serrated end mill. What is this? Yeah? I don't know why I've done this. Yeah? Anyway, point is you can make serrations. Yeah? And how do serrated cutters? Huh? No, both are all end mills. All end mills. Yeah? All end mills. Yeah?
Why you have cutter all the way up there? You are never going to.
Oh no, they will tell you sometimes they cut 20 millimeter deep, 30 millimeter deep, very low radial engagement. As in aluminium cutting, why you are talking about? We showed an example: 2,200 kg starting weight, 22 kg finished weight. 99 in this case. Yeah? So you can see just what this has done. This is experimental results now. A regular end mill, 3 millimeter depth of cut. Serrated cutter, 10 millimeter. All that you did was add serrations on the cutter. Stability model is very different, but it gives you this, yeah? Experimental results. This is again all published. This is not new. Use this information. Other people are, yeah? So why not we? And you can also use this information to design even better serrated end mills. This has got a sinusoidal profile on it. If you make 2 sine curves, or you make 1 sine curve and you modulate that with another sine wave, it will change your profile, it will change how this will work, it will probably be better. And these codes are available. Yeah? This is something very interesting. Anyway, so this is serrated cutters. This is very interesting. Tool length tuning. Yeah? The longer you make the tool, the more flexible it is. Overhang increases, more flexible. You can see that here also. Yeah? 80 millimeters, 90 millimeters, 100 from the spindle nose. So the higher this peak, the more flexible it is. So longer overhang is 100 millimeters is the most flexible. Does it have the best stability? And oddly, so this is the red curve is long overhang, not the same but different, long overhang. Yeah? Blue curve is the shortest overhang, like there. Blue curve is best and only in this region. long overhang is excellent beyond 14,000 RPM, whereas the short overhang is terrible. So if you need to cut at this speed, if you have a certain application, yeah, if you have this idea, you know which tool to select. Yeah? It's not always the shortest tool is better. This is called tool length tuning. A lot of people do this. Yeah? And this is how you cut, especially these aero components that you're talking about. If you don't know this behavior, you're in the dark. Let's try this, maybe this might work, let's try something else. But use everything that we are introducing to you. You've got to study it a little more. But people use this all the time. Yeah? Okay. This is from Tony Schmitz at UNCC. Their group does very interesting work also on chatter. Yeah?
It changes the natural frequency.
Natural frequency. It
Omega,
moves.
capital omega by omega n changes. And that
It
is
just
what
it moves the lobe left right. Yeah?
Yeah.
Not so much up down, but left right. Yeah?
Omega
Okay.
n, omega n.
This is very interesting. Yeah? If I ask you, out of all the type of tool holders that we have, there's Collet, there's Hydro Chuck, there's Power Grip, there's Shrink Fit. People will tell you Shrink Fit is the best, latest, best. Let's use Shrink Fit holder. But if you see, what we want is this to be as small as possible. And a Collet, which is here, or a Power Chuck, is what you should use. But people for some reason think, you see, you're shaking your head. Huh?
Yes, I don't agree with this.
It's okay. We can show you.
I have some images that shows power check is cost
See,
compared to
No, this is measured data. Our point is you have to look at measurements. You just can't look at ideas or that people have. People will tell you Power Chuck is better. Power Chuck is good actually. People will tell you Shrink Fit is the best. But it's just nonsense. Depends on application. Yeah? Sometimes you need Shrink Fit.
playing end milling application.
Hmm.
That's what I have a,
This is end mill. Yeah?
for the
Same tool. Go ahead. Sorry.
for the same parameters. So power check has what you can say the more chatter compared to this hydraulic check.
Hydraulic chuck is this one. Yeah? So it depends how you're using these cutters. Yeah? Because stability will also be different. Frequencies are different.
I mean the theory goes like this: whatever the fluid inside the hydraulic check, so it gives the damping method.
Yes, that's true to a certain extent. Yeah? But
On top of that, you also have to see the fundamental frequencies are quite different. No? So, right now, this dynamic stiffness is only telling you what is the absolute minima below which no chatter will happen. But depending on what speed you are cutting,
So
you
can't-
might be,
you can't
for
compare
one
it
of
for the
them,
same parameters.
even though the dynamic stiffness is not as good,
hmm.
but because its stiffness is such that your cutting speed is something that is taking you into this bigger pocket.
This is a good example to show that. Yeah? You see, frequencies are different, lobes are different, sweet spot is different, where the pocket is different. Yeah? Okay, you have to understand that idea. Here, this is stiffer, the collet and the power chuck, but the sweet spot, the pocket you have to find. Yeah? You can't say that the same speed I will use, it's not probably going to be different. Yes? But point is, this is better than that. It might be, yeah? Depending again on application. Yeah? But dispel these ideas that power chuck is bad or power chuck or shrink fit is the best. Yeah? This is what objective is. Yeah? Think of it a little differently using stability as a metric.
Just looking at only the dynamic stiffness is just telling you the absolute minima thing.
Yes.
But on top of that, there are other pockets. I think.
Yes.
So the absolute minima for one of these could be lower than the other, but at the cutting speed that you are cutting, the spindle speed, one of the one which has lower dynamic stiffness could be better because you are in that pocket where spindle speed omega by the natural frequency divided by the spindle speed is closer to some
Integer.
number.
Integer number. Yeah. Okay, so this is just an idea. And why is collet the best? Can anybody imagine? So power chuck you said because there's hydraulics inside. Why do you think collet is the best
As
or good? Yeah?
it has multi-directional collapse.
Yes, as in it damps because it's got these slits. Yeah? So it's actually collapsing and expanding, collapsing and expanding. It's dissipating energy, which is vibration. Okay, excellent. So this is just that. Yeah. This you already saw. Yeah. This is how it works. This is again published literature. If you want to do this, this has been published by people how to do this. This was published in the CIRP in I think 1994 or something like that. Yeah. And then based on that, then Sandvik said, "Oh, somebody knows how to do this. Let's make it." This is Sandvik's silent tool, silent tool, something like that they call it. Yeah. So this is just nothing but very hard or heavy density material in two bushes, and sometimes there's a fluid inside, and you can compress or release that fluid depending on a set screw, which compresses and changes. So that's why it's called a tunable damper. You can change and tune that passive stiffness, and it damps vibration. Very simple to do. People have done this. We know how.
It's like dynamic vibration absorber.
Yes. But they use stability as a metric to understand all this. It's not
So
just.
that second thing acts as a secondary mass.
It's a passive damper. Yeah. It's absorber. You're right. Yeah. Okay. All right. This we spoke about yesterday. Yeah. And this is my last slide. Yeah. So this is process damping. Yeah. You remember there are waves being formed. So if you have a low clearance angle or a very large land, you will be contacting the workpiece. It creates damping. Let it wear out the tool. So what? So what are the tool wears? You have to think differently. People get very scared of tool wear. Your machine hour cost for these 5-axis machines is what? 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees per hour.
Yeah, about 5,000.
5,000. So let's say 5,000. What is the tool cost?
Tool wear, not at all.
Tool wear is insignificant. Yeah, get out of this regime. People, I think hundreds of people working on tool wear research. Yes, it's important sometimes, but there are things which are more important. If you want to cut 99% material removal, chodo tool wear. Think machine hour productivity. Process damping in that low speed region. I think we discussed this yesterday, right? Even Dr. Jin showed it. I think even you showed it. Yeah?
I did not show it. I expect it in fact, it could lead to instabilities.
Okay, now don't complicate.
Be careful.
No, now don't complicate.
Yeah.
Okay, so RPM, this is same thing. What happens is you get these pockets here. It increases stability to infinity. You cut here, let it wear. So think differently.
The model does not give that.
Yes,
This
no.
is coming from something else.
They are different models.
But if you take that increase VR flat,
Yeah.
then the friction there increases, and that
Hmm.
friction is actually a nonlinear function of the cutting velocity,
Hmm.
and sometimes that could lead to instability.
Perhaps you're right.
Yeah.
And there are more complicated phenomena happening.
Yes.
Our point is, you can, and these models exist. We know how to predict this. That don't think that tool wear is so important, and I need to save the life of the tool. It is not. Think machine. And hopefully you got some flavor of how you can use these ideas, or what we tried to do in the last 4.5 days. So with that, thank you. Yeah, this is the last slide. Okay.